Hey! Welcome to your weekly corner, Späti. It's the Polish coalition, still in the EU, despite a bunch of panic in Poland suggesting they might leave the EU, even though I think it's completely unfounded.
Yep, both of our names in a recent leak of financial documents.
Yeah, the Späti papers, but they put the S in a brackets because they really want everything to begin with a P. That's the other thing that I think is like sus about all this is the branding. Like, that just sucks.
No, it pops. There's someone who went to the new school for marketing and now works at the CIA who's coming up with this, rolling out the naming scheme. Someone who applied and didn't get a Marvel Cinematic Universe planning job.
Yeah,
now they're planning out the
schedule,
the paper episodes. Cinematic universe.
Who in the Eternals is going to be deaf and who's going to be Indian?
The real Eternals is called capitalism, guys.
Woo! All right. Yeah, we're talking about the Pandora papers, the leaks.
Yep.
Possibly.
Wait, Pandora's the right word.
Yeah, Pandora.
What is Panama? Is the first?
In order, Panama, Paradise. Pandora.
Those are the names of my children.
Oh, they're definitely like that is definitely that's kind of like Milo from Trash Future has the great bit about like a certain kind of posh English woman or like posh English people where all the women have dogs' names and all the dogs have women names. Like you'd meet a dog called Samantha being walked by a woman called Tiddles.
That's the real cultural Marxism.
Yeah,
when rich people can name themselves whatever they want.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about this shit, and we got a lot of stuff like the nature and history of tax havens. We're also going to talk about like I think the meta narrative of these leaks, as well as how it's all big fucking up.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Considering, I mean, I guess they're like 1,000 pages each, so there should be something.
Oh god, hang on. About. We have a measurement in. So Pandora Papers is 11.9 million leaked documents, 2.9 terabytes.
Oh,
it is genuinely the largest, in terms of raw data, as far as I know, and it also. The Panama Papers, for example, was called Panama Papers because it came from one firm in Panama. Mossack Fonseca is the name of the firm. But the Pandora Papers comes from, I believe, 49 different firms or something like that. 49 or 39.
Posse cut.
It comes from multiple. And that's kind of like the big shit there. So...
I've never read these or anything about them really.
No one. I mean, that's genuinely the work of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the ICIJ or something. Yeah, they get these leaks a lot earlier than when they come forward with them because it is 11.9 million leaked documents, and it's a tactic that the Russian, or has been described in the Russian context as hack and dumps, of just like go in, smash and grab, and then drop it somewhere in the laps of a bunch of journalists, which is what happens, and therefore it can take a very long time to actually like go through all that and find the incriminating bullshit.
Yeah, and the incriminating bullshit. To me, seems like, again, my interpretation is this is really sketchy, and then they have to do an asterisk, but it's kind of technically legal.
Whoops!
Like they have to say, like, yeah, I guess to avoid libel or anything.
Yeah,
like they're just like, this is all legal.
Yeah,
I mean, they try to be like, but if you do too much or too garishly, maybe then it's tax evasion, which is illegal. But it's all technically legal.
The liberal imagination of the Goldilocks zone of capitalism, right? Of just the like, not too much, not too little, not too hot, not too cold. Just do it right,
yeah,
and then everything will be fine. Why do you keep breaking all these unwritten rules that are actually totally legal for you to do, and there's no consequences for it, and you just personally enriching yourselves. Why do you keep doing this?
So what are some of the, if you know, like the plays in the playbook, like put all your wealth somewhere else, have a business, like make purchases through these offshore banks so that no one actually knows you bought it or how you bought it or how much you spent on it?
Yeah, so a lot of things like that can come from the big one is just like putting my money in a place that has like little or no taxes, so I don't pay the tax man. Then it's buying the offshore company so that I can buy stuff that isn't attached to my name, and that can be again for tax dodging reasons, or I shouldn't be buying this stuff. So
like Bitcoin on all counts, which I mean, honestly, when we get into the history, we're living in an exciting time.
And then the I guess like the kind of egregious one, or like the big one, but again probably totally legal because the world sucks, is the buying the offshore shell company to then buy stuff while I'm a sitting member of like government, and there's supposedly meant to be like limits on what I purchase. It's also like a fun way to funnel a bunch of lobbying stuff that could happen, or corruption stuff of just like, no, I wasn't involved in like cozying up to like the German auto industry. That was like bullshit.inc, company innocently in the British Virgin Islands.
Yeah. Like, if you're rich enough, you can literally define and incorporate an old me, and you're like, that was the old me.
Yeah,
legally, that was the old me.
Legally speaking,
legally, I'm
on record saying old me trash.
The lawyer is in court trying to tell me legally you are back on your bullshit, and I say no, legally that is a different person. I'm not back on anything.
I'm doing it again, but I'm a new person.
These are evil island boys. These are these are the worst kinds of island boys.
These are the worst kind of island boys.
But what's funny about it, if I can start going into my history spiel, is that like all the stuff, billionaires do, powerful companies do. There's, on the one hand, a lot of the, whether it's an explainer video and how it enters into the press is like, oh, this is bad that this happens. It's a loophole in society.
That will never be
a very conveniently placed loophole. And it's that like, oh, really, just the bad people do it. And on the second point first, it's like, if you're not doing this, like if you're not, it's almost like if you're not cheating, you're not trying to win, even though this isn't, again, legally not cheating.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, like the bad actors who are doing it, who are taking advantage of this, of this. We built a door and now people are illegally entering a room. Like, there's like, it didn't just like happen to be there. Like, this was constructed over time to be to fulfill certain needs. Capitalism.
Why even like your bourgeois capitalist papers that are totally fine with the system, or will like emphasize that it's legal? Like one of the not to spoil ahead, but one of the names mentioned in the paper is like Tony Blair, and like
what?
Yeah, and the Guardian is just like really batting for him. Like they're willing to like drag the names of everyone else involved in it through the mud, but like Tony Blair, that was fine. He was just buying a house or something. The like, but even the papers who are like critical of it and stuff, I guess like the Guardian is like they are like, even though they're like willing to insist it is legal, they are critical of it. The reason they view it as cheating, I think in their explainer video they literally called it cheating, but reminding you it was legal. They do correctly recognize that this is something you can do, something legally can do, but not everyone can do, because it requires a certain level of financial access to pay for these like money managers or handling companies or services that like, and that only really becomes a problem if you are someone who's ideologically believed that this was ever a fair system to begin with, that we all start from the same position.
Yeah, but even saying not everyone can afford to do it, again implies this like good people, bad people, when it's literally just you must be this tall to ride this ride. And it's not like you're too tall, and it's like, no, literally I have enough money, so I unlock new features.
Yeah, basically it reminds me of like the funniest part of the GDR museum in Berlin, which is still the museum I recommend to everyone. I think it's one of the best museums here. But there is a bit about like the elite of the GDR, and it was just like a plaque being like, the elite in the GDR had access to goods and services and luxuries the common people did not have. I was like, wow, wild, crazy world that must have fucking been. What an alien, strange concept.
The East Germans, when they're reunifying, they should have held out the bargaining for the adrenochrome. They accepted the first offer of bananas. Yep. You caved too quickly.
Yeah, you should have held out for that like island gifted to you by Cuba actually being a part and turning it into a tax haven.
Yeah. So I think to go back to the history side of things, like again, the tax haven maybe in popular reporting, and maybe there's a good reason for this, and in just the kind of popular consciousness, is that it's A, just like a loophole to be exploited, and B, that it's like maybe like a asterisk or footnote in the general like how capitalism functions. Like it's a dark corner. Yeah. When if you really look at it, they are like the cornerstone of the post-World War II economic system, even more arguably than the traditional narrative of the like post-war strong welfare state turning to deregulation in the 1970s. Yeah. Because like tax havens go through both those systems, and they're a key part of the international economy in both those systems. Someone writing about this a lot is the historian Vanessa Ogle. I will we should put her papers in the show notes, because she really, I think, makes a pretty compelling argument, which is that, like, first of all, like capitalism, and I mean, other people make this argument too, capitalism needs like this kind of uneven landscape. That's how like investment and capital can basically function to, accumulate. And the original system before tax havens that did this was the empire. Like British Empire, like, it was really rich as Cecil Rhodes. And so like you would have like, you could like technically put your company in like London or in South Africa or Rhodesia or wherever, depending on however it worked best with taxes and all of that. And so it was when like that already existed as a system, and that's not like the loophole. These are the richest, most powerful people in the world, and primarily the UK, but also France and other countries are doing it with their colonial empires. The Netherlands, this is like what, right? The birth of like modern imperial capitalism, and like having a place to hide money and do stuff off the books is like baked in from the very beginning. And so it's only with the like end of empire, decolonization, especially ramping up after World War II, that tax havens are like, oh, we just need a new way to do this. And it's not a coincidence that like quote unquote offshore tax havens are just like smaller colonies. Like, you move your stuff from South Africa to the Cayman Islands or to Bermuda.
A lot of them are actually literally colonies. For anyone who doesn't know, there is like a UN resolution that's like, that did try to get rid of colonies that like no one effectively listened to, except for like France was kind of like weirdly into it. That's why like Réunion, which is an island off the coast of Madagascar, is like not considered a colony, because France was like, well, this is the rules, the UN says so now you can like vote for a representative here or whatever. Like it is a part of France. But the UK did keep a bunch of like bullshit, like, you're still a part of the UK, you don't send anyone to Parliament though, and you don't vote for anything that happens in the UK. Even fucking Gibraltar.
Right.
Still like that.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
So two things, because one, it's just so funny. Like, we cannot stop emphasizing that, like, when The Guardian or something is like talking about these tactics that these, Russian leaders can find exotic places to hide their money, like the British Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it seems like you might be some part of the system.
Does anyone just shouting in the editorial room of the Guardian? Does anyone know who runs that again? Who's this?
Yeah, and another good example is like the Antilles for the Netherlands, like places in the Caribbean. But it's interesting you mentioned France because they don't have as many islands, but that's basically why Switzerland and Luxembourg become what they do, because that's like the French version. It's like these little
We
like
all have one. That's what you get. This is why Eastern Europe is like behind, because they don't have the money crimes microstate. It like literally everyone gets one in Western Europe. Spain gets Andorra, Italy gets San Marino, the German speaking world gets Liechtenstein, Luxembourg's just like the town Bicycle or whatever. Just like anyone can have a go here. I don't know what the Nordics do. Presumably something. Yeah. But like Cyprus
creative.
is also a giant one, Malta to a lesser extent. But yeah, like it's just like the dignified thing to be like, if you're a proper Western European country, also conveniently one, as you're saying, with a colonial past, you get like a little bullshit microstate. Actually, yeah, sorry. France is Monaco.
Yeah. There you go. And there's also like documented examples of people like rich industrialists moving from a colony and then like from, I don't know, Indonesia. And then they're like, well, why would I go back to the Netherlands where now they're going to tax me to do a welfare state? I'm just going to move to Curacao or whatever. Like I'm going to move. Like I like this arrangement we have here. Why would I move back to the Netherlands?
God, there's even like modern examples of this. We've covered it on Megarika before. 1 second. The richest guy from Norway. Richest man in Norway. Jon Fredriksson. Who's like he's involved in like oil and fisheries and stuff. We did him before very early Megarika, and he literally pieced out of Norway. He's like gave up his citizenship, and he now is a citizen of Cyprus. For like he came up with a whole bullshit reason of I cannot do business here. It sucks. Everyone's trying to hold me down. So I go to Cyprus where they respect business and tax me nothing. Yeah.
That's Min Kampf in
Norwegian Mein Kampf.
Like there's also like examples like British tax law. A lot of the legal precedents just go back to the colonial period. Like there's already 100%. Like that's the system.
Yeah. No, there's this is all funneled through the city. I think it's I've forgotten which way it goes, but there's a part of London which is not a part of London, and I can't remember if it's called the London City or the City of London. I think it might be the City of London, and London City is the actual thing. And the City of London is like this. The City of London is the facilitator of bringing the money from the metropole to these outskirts and kind of like controlling and managing that. 100% what that does. Yeah.
There's just a way like why I think the
point I was getting to is like that hasn't changed since like the fucking fire of London, which was like the 1600s or whatever. Like,
there's just like, and again, I encourage you to read their little dents, the Ogle papers in the description, because there's a really good like argument that takes something like globalization that people kind of assume they like, oh, I intuitively understand that in the 90s, whatever, like borders came down, the world is flat or whatever, and like. First of all, the more you think about tax havens, the more you think about, well, okay, that's not really true, like, because there always has to be, again, this like lumpiness, unevenness, whatever the experts call it in capitalism. But then the flip side of the argument is that like, okay, well, so if the lumpiness like already existed from before, like it was already kind of globalized. Like what is colonialism but going way over on the other side of the globe and doing what you want? Like, to act or to really buy into or to put too much weight into the globalization narrative is really to like kind of be a little bit of a sucker. Like it's not that different from things before. Like capital can circulate. So it was like to buy into the globalization argument too much is to basically assume that the post 90s, like the world is flat is some unique thing when the world is always flat for capital, since it basically brought into the world stage.
Yeah, 100%. Like ever since ever since it left the Netherlands for the UK, basically, right?
Yeah. And the other interesting aspect of this is that at the same time this transition's going on, there's a lot of similarities, but it's still also interesting that it switches from an empire, being the place to stash your money. And it's not just money, right? We're talking about offshore banks. We're talking about tax havens, flags of convenience in shipping. Even something like the rise of the euro market, the prehistory of the formal euro.
Yeah.
Ogle talks basically outlines how that's all tied into this system, not surprisingly.
Starts around the time France starts losing colonies, basically, conveniently.
We need to buy. Break in case of emergency. There's a glass
break
there.
In case of losing French Indochina.
It's just interesting that all of that's happening, and it's creating this new version of the global economy. And at the same time, individual states are doing things like welfare programs and higher taxation. And it's especially today, as a left-wing agitation or argument that we should return to something like that. It's that was always. That's by definition less powerful, right? That circumscribed within the state. That's that can't play by the same rules that this super state global economy does. So it's always you're playing with a rigged deck.
Yeah,
kind of from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that was almost given to you, you know what I mean? That's not it's not like the global economy countered with tax havens once you came up with that very good idea of doing welfare and stuff. It's no, at the same time that all this stuff's happening, we still have a global economy outside of the control of an individual state that they can't reach.
Yeah. Well, it's your classic example of, I don't know when this rallying call came about, but capital is international, therefore worker solidarity, or therefore decent left-wing movements should be as well. Because that's I feel like that's a slogan. Yeah, that's older than tax havens. The concept that was a slogan invented in the time of empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got on the history. You want to talk about the CIA? Another force that really came into its own after World War II.
Right. All right, actually, before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit about the meta-narrative. And what I mean by that is...
Not unrelated.
Not unrelated, definitely connective tissue there. And also not unrelated to what we're talking about there, because it's definitely feeds into the whole just how the Guardian is handling it. So the reason why I think there was a lot of pushback against the cynicism of left Twitter towards when this came out. This was quite recent. I feel like this episode is quite late, but the Pandora leaks was October 3rd. So not doing too bad. It's the same fucking month. Get off my case. And it's a situation of just I fucking just could not handle it. Personally, I was just pissed of if you do not go around, if you do not live your day-to-day life knowing that every rich person, every person in power is doing these things when there is zero consequences for doing it, everything telling you should, sometimes even just assumed or baked in, because a lot of these people just have money and asset managers who just as far as the rich person is concerned, that's just a black box. I got a guy because what my other rich friend told me he was a good guy for this, and the good guy for this just does this anyway. It's completely automatic. But if you don't go around your life assuming this is exactly what all of them do, then you're you're a fucking group. You've been played. You've bought into this idea that capitalism somehow works, or is an equal or fair game for all, rather than, like you said, a rigged deck. So the specifics are kind of nice and kind of interesting, but they're not earth-shattering. Before we started recording, I showed Rob the Guardian's explainer video for this, and it's not an explainer video for the Pandora Papers. It's the explainer video for the concept of an offshore bank account. There was literally like a section being like, why would rich people do this? Like, as if the person who made the video was personally offended.
Yeah, if you watched it and you're like, I had no idea rich people could do this, it's like, okay, now we have to do something. I think you have to accept that. It's not really telling you anything you don't know. Even if it's you get some juicy details. Some nice it's honestly it's good gossip.
This is something that this is something that I am personally proud of this podcast for doing, because while I think, especially after coming off the back of recording that particular bonus episode that we recorded, that we are like a very stupid podcast in a lot of ways, we are not mind-numbingly patronizing. Like, I don't know how anyone listens or reads The Guardian or listens to NPR or whatever these kind of like mainstream good liberal sources are. Like Vox, I think, is another great example. Is like, and not just be driven insane because you're being talked to like a fucking child.
It's interesting you say that, because I think the truth is that everyone who watches those videos doesn't think they're the audience. They imagine themselves explaining it like they do in the video to someone whose attention they can grab. So it's like, you're not the child, you're another potential know-it-all teacher or parent. You can be condescending like that to other people. And it's like, so like watching Guardian, Vox, all these things are like, it's like your clique of dickheads, and you could all be like that. And so everyone, like, it's like you're getting good tips. you're rehearsing ways you can talk about this to your friends and family who might be, I don't know, believe in conspiracy theories or fake news or whatever it might be.
It's not patronizing for kids. It's patronizing because it's a teaching aid. It's teaching materials that you would then supposedly pass on to people that you as a good liberal think are kids.
And it lines up with a lot of other progressive liberal pathologies, which is like, oh, very well said. Like, it's like there doesn't have to be an audience, just like the craft of saying it, which again is all like tied into, you're always assuming you're like, you could also get up on stage and explain it.
Oh, it's anyway. It's just, I can't understand. I a little offside, but like one of the Vox is actually kind of having some problems at the moment because
trouble in paradise.
Because they did this thing of like, okay, we'll build up amongst our staff like these kind of like celebrity creators type of things. And they had like a pretty decent YouTube series called Uncharted, where they had this like one formerly Mormon pretty boy like go to these parts of the world that like are rarely gone to, right? And it was good. It was very visually entertaining and stuff to just like have on the ground camera footage of this stuff that like it's a nice supplement to like a Wikipedia article or whatever. But it is very patronizing. And the problem Vox is having at the moment is like, we've built up these celebrities, and it's like, cool, we're leaving and starting our own personal YouTube channel, which this guy has done. And he started a mini series where he's like specifically focusing on Cyprus because it's like a very interesting place or whatever. But it is like incredibly condescending bullshit. Like he's taken the Vox style with him because it worked for him. So that's all just coming back to me right now. So,
Ciarán has a 2.7 terabyte collection of stream of consciousness memories of him watching various explainer YouTube videos over the past 10 plus years.
Time I'm never getting back, purely because my wife used to work nights, and it was just like, what the fuck is on YouTube? So,
I have a question for you.
Okay.
If everyone knows how capitalism works already, who would want to release this?
For what reason? Not ready to talk about that yet. Give me some more time here. Because the other like meta narrative stuff about this is, again, as Rob's kind of pointing out, that like it's a bit rich coming from The Guardian when like this like all of this is being facilitated largely by London, by the government of the UK. For anyone who doesn't know, I recommend taxjustice.net have a what is it called again? The Financial Secrecy Index, which is their response to the very stupid Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International, which is a stupid fucking index because it's literally asking people, do you think your government is corrupt? And like, no one in the UK thinks their government is corrupt, even though fucking is. Anyway, this measures like how secretive various countries and political entities are about like their financial dealings and their government, and obviously like Switzerland is number 3 currently, blah blah blah, very obvious. But like, one of the things they do,
I believe in you, Switzerland. You can get up to number 1.
One of the things they do is that in their list, in their rankings, they highlight all the countries that the UK has effectively control over. And it's the number 1 spot in the Cayman Islands. It's number 9 with the British Virgin Islands. It's number 11 and 12 with Guernsey and the United Kingdom itself, respectively. Jersey, the Bahamas, Gibraltar, Bermuda, Isle of Man, Mauritius. All of those like have some sort of like financial control by the UK.
Imagine a member of the House of Lords drinking a mojito on the deck of a yacht saying, we're all looking for the guy who did this.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, it's just very rich. I also like the thing that I kind of get annoyed about with these things is that very little action has been done. For example, with the Pandora Papers, one of the things that we did think was going to happen, because polls were kind of telling us would, was that one of the people named in Europe was Andrej Babiš from the Czech Republic. And it looked like in the polls, his party was actually going to suffer because of this. Because this actually came out just before election season had like officially started, basically. People knew the election was coming, but it's Europe. And took a dive in the polls, blah blah blah. But now he came out on top. His party came out on top. There's still worries in the Czech Republic because no other party's willing to work with him, and he's not got an outright majority. But he did a lot better than the polls thought, and there is no consequences, and there was very little consequences for the Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers. People correctly pointed out that when Jeremy Corbyn said that we should investigate David Cameron and his dad for him being named, I believe, in Pandora, possibly not Pandora, sorry, Panama or Paradise, I can't remember. Like, the British press called for Jeremy Corbyn to resign for even mentioning this. Like, it's just shut the fuck up, none of this actually matters, shut the fuck up. And one of the things that we were talking about before we started about this is like the amount of fanfare this gets from big publications. Like, it's The Guardian in the UK, which I think is also like grabbing a lot of attention. But there's participating media outlets. For example, Germany had 3 Süddeutsche Zeitung, Westdeutscher Rundfunk, Neudeutscher Rundfunk were all the publications here. Radio France, ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, that's the state media. These are big publications giving this fanfare, but like this fanfare is not reserved for other leaks that happen that are sometimes more important, or like we've seen the material effects. I'm namely thinking of the Afghanistan leaks.
Yeah, that
I believe it was 2019 showed that like the entirety of the US's and its allies' project in Afghanistan was a farce, and nothing was working, and money was just being siphoned out of that country while like no infrastructure. I think the main thing was there was no military readiness by the supposed Afghan troops we were training. And lo and behold, fucking 2021 happens, the pullout happens, and the entire press acts like they were caught with their pants down, and not like this thing that was warned about in advance.
Yeah. I think a good comparison, and it's almost like a general category of U.S. intelligence leaks, where Edward Snowden can't go back to the U.S. and Chelsea Manning is in and out of prison, right?
Yeah,
versus
absolutely.
That's
and Assange in general as well.
Yeah,
just
versus, I mean, if you're driving a car in Malta, you have to be careful. But like the U.S. government and U.S. like I was going to call them state media, but come on, I don't want to go too far. But like, such publications, there's a stark difference between them like kind of openly circulating and pushing these leaks versus some of the violent backlash to the other ones.
The U.S. media involved in this, actually, just to paint a picture, The Guardian as well, because the U.S. wing of The Guardian, Frontline PBS, McClatchy, Miami Herald, and the Washington Post. They were involved in this, as well as what I'm assuming is a Spanish language American publication, El Nuevo Herald. Might be a mistake in there. Oh no, it's just Southeast Florida. Oh no, it's in Spanish. Never mind. I was right. But so I think we can get into just the like, is this an op?
Of course it is.
The answer is yes, you fucking idiots.
So the first Panama Papers came out in 2016, right?
Yeah.
So do you think within the agency there's like two competing groups, maybe they even have like, friendly water cooler jostling and stuff between the group that orchestrates the financial papers leaks and the group that runs the Brooklyn podcasts, and they're seeing like who's which one?
CIA West, CIA East. It's the
CIA East is sending a New Yorker review of the Chapo to CIA West.
Do you ever see the final or penultimate scene of like the good seasons of like Arrested Development?
Yes.
Where they were just like whereas like CIA West is like, did we have a construction guy working in Iraq with Saddam? Was he an asset of ours? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Hang on, let me just check with CIA East. He just leans over the desk. It was like, we have that. It was like, you could just search this name. It was like, oh yeah, he's one of us. This guy they've been chasing for like 3 years was like under their employ, or like was a patsy of theirs. Yeah, it's okay. So let's talk about the op aspect of this. No Yanks, zero Yanks mentioned.
I mean,
in this.
Can't get them. They're just they're good boys. They don't do any crimes. They don't do any financial crimes.
United States is number 2 on the financial secrecy index.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's all through Delaware, though.
Fuck you, Switzerland.
Yeah. Yeah, because like anyone doesn't know, like the U.S. uses its kind of like federal aspects to kind of like do its tax dodging. Like it's Delaware just basically has like the same kind of financial secrecy laws as Switzerland.
Yeah. I mean, learning what we did about tax havens today, I'm surprised. Like if they come out of colonies, I'm surprised the U.S. is good at is good at doing it.
I'm pretty sure I would not be surprised that like things like Guam are involved in this kind of stuff. But so that's one aspect. It's also worth pointing out that like up on the top of the list is, I believe, the number 1 nation for or nationality mentioned in the Pandora Papers is Russian.
Got him.
Yeah, got him. Which includes big people, big hitters. What else is it? Like Ukraine is also mentioned, and that's kind of viewed as a backlash to like not instituting a lot of like pro-Western reforms fast enough, basically. Panama Papers similarly also targeted a lot of Russian and Chinese individuals, and one of the most damning things I found, or one of the most interesting things I found, was a comment that whistleblower Bradley Birkenfeld made, who's he's served some time in prison for whistleblowing, particularly financial whistleblowing. He used to work in Switzerland. He exposed a bunch of like Americans tax dodging via Switzerland. He got like a huge payout from like the tax office in the States. I've forgotten the name of it. So like he's considered like this expert, and he's quoted as saying, "The very fact that we see these names surface that are direct quote unquote enemies of the United States, Russia, China, Pakistan, Argentina, and we don't see one US name. Why is that?" he asked, then speculating that the damage done to friendly leaders like then British Prime Minister David Cameron was simply collateral damage. Quote, "Quite frankly, my feeling is that this is certainly an intelligence agency operation." as Rob kind of talked about the other class of like leaks that have occurred in American history and recent American history of like Reality Winner, Snowden, I've forgotten her name. Chelsea Manning. Just blanked on me there for
even going back to the Vietnam War, that's also like
absolutely. Like it's nothing new, but like in this kind of like digital era, I guess we can kind of like maybe make that kind of like distinction at least. These all exist in like a digital era. Same with like Julian Assange to a certain extent, although he's more like internationally wanted than just US. They're all like chased, hounded, slandered in general, while there are no calls to find who did this. Not any like not even warnings of like, oh, this is good, but beware of foreign nefarious agendas and things like that.
Right. They're like almost like knee-jerk necessary reaction thing to anything even remotely critical of the US. You mentioned, dude, Twitter and Facebook would ban you for posting anything about Hunter Biden's leaks from his computer.
Hunter Biden shit. God fucking damn. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, like, okay, so the Hunter Biden stuff is a great example of like, I think mostly of how embed American military intelligence is with the press, because the reason that was banned, the reason that was banned was because a bunch of former FBI and CIA people basically claimed, oh, it was fake, and therefore no major publications ran with it. Like, okay, maybe Breitbart or whatever the fuck, and then similarly also got Facebook and Twitter to just like automatically delete if you posted anything about it. As best as they could technically didn't do that. And since then, that's all been proved to be legit. Like, it was 100% like proven legit.
It actually wasn't because they thought it would, harm. It's not because the deep state wanted Joe Biden to be president. It's because they couldn't let the information get out there that, that white boy was swagging so much.
The morale of this country will fall if we see the size of Hunter Biden's dick. God, it was so fucking stupid. So like it's also worth pointing out that other much more intelligent people than us have pointed this out, that after the Snowden leak, God, when was that? That was during
2012?
2012? Yes.
2013?
It
maybe?
was Obama's presidency. So, after the Snowden leak, some people in relatively high up in journalistic circles correctly pointed out that I do think these kind of like digital, what I called earlier, what's been called online hack and dumps, are going to become more common. We as journalists need to set up like standards on how we report on these things, because it's different from the Vietnam era of like whatever, call me deep throat or whatever, like of like getting this contact who then relays to a journalist not only the information but their interpretation of the information. They walk their hand through the stuff, right? Now we get this situation where hackers smash and grab a bunch of files and then literally just throw it at journalists to like, here, look at this. It takes them a long time to actually sort through it, and people from like I think it's like fact.org and stuff like that, factchecker.org, correctly pointed out that like we need to be cautious about reporting this because we are journalists. We are not we're not economists. We're not like military intelligence, blah blah blah. We need to kind of like, we have to report this with a grain of salt. We have to mention that there might be nefarious purposes behind this, state actors, blah blah blah. All of that is completely absent from any reporting of Pandora, Panama, Paradise, but also not absent from any reluctant reporting of like the Afghanistan leaks, or the Assange leaks was another one where like a bunch of files got revealed that like all these various attempts to kill Julian Assange were leaked.
Exploding cigar, things of that nature. The Castro playbook.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think a bunch of mob bosses. Weirdly, in Julian Assange's neighborhood is a bunch of dodgy casinos for whatever reason.
This just occurred to me, so I'm just going to throw it out there. I forgot Daniel Ellsberg. I couldn't remember the name. The Pentagon Papers was the leak that described what was going on in the U.S.
Yeah.
Which is the original PP. Yeah. And I wonder if this is like a weird limited hangout of like, of course, more PP papers.
Is it a Disney Frozen situation?
Wait, how does that relate to Disney Frozen?
Do you not know the Disney Frozen conspiracy?
No.
That the movie Disney Frozen was called Frozen because now you can't Google about Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen.
Oh.
Because now the movie will just come up.
Wow, I believe that.
You can't type Disney Frozen into Google anymore without just getting the movie.
Huh.
Yeah.
No, I think they name it as a subtle reference to the Pentagon Papers to be like, yep, that's just another
one of the series.
Another thing that we celebrate for being out there. You know, they like that's the limited hangout portion of it.
Absolutely. And it just sucks so much. Like and none of this is to say that the stuff that's revealed is fake. Mm-hmm. It is real.
Yeah.
It is 100% real. But oftentimes will come to maybe at convenient moments will be particularly targeted towards countries that don't necessarily play ball with the United States. I also would posit the idea that some friendly actors to the United States are thrown in there.
Yeah, I mean, you used the phrase collateral damage earlier, which is like, why? Or like, is that to make it look good? Or is it because, doing quick math, almost just over 2 weeks before this leak, the French government had recalled their ambassador from the U.S. And so it's like, fuck you. We can still do this shit to you.
Yeah.
Like, why the collateral damage? Or is it just they don't? You know what I mean? Is it just to create, like, paint more of a world picture? Or is it maybe, honestly, it could be the U.S. just like flexing on you, like, remember your place.
Yeah, well, there's that. There's also the concept of like, well, we just have to make it look more real.
Yeah. Wait. Can I say my catchphrase?
Sure.
They expect one of us in the wreckage, brother.
The other side would, I think the other thing is like, think about every other time the U.S. government uses the term collateral damage. They're willing to like they're willing to like temporarily embarrass David Cameron for a couple of weeks. If they're willing to do that, if they're willing to like kill an entire Afghan wedding party, like it's
true.
Yeah.
True.
So Jesus. I think the other thing that like some good articles have pointed out, there's one in Jacobin by Branko Marcetic. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. But he also correctly points out that investigations by The Guardian themselves, who they'll never link this investigation to the Pandora Papers or whatever, but they did reveal before in the past that like one out of every 4 hackers in the world is basically tied to the CIA in some way, whether they are just the CIA or just contracted to them at some point or another.
They're all in a big hype house in Langley.
Yeah, the Langley hype house. What is the CIA if not like a hype house for doing statecraft? It's always something to be suspect of. And one thing that actually struck out to me when doing the initial research for this episode was I went back to the like Pandora Papers section of theguardian.com because when this first dropped, they had like a bunch of their names. They're like, this is the Pandora Papers that's happening. And also, you know, any good person who makes content knows when you start a podcast, you have to have like at least 3 episodes recorded already. When you're going to do this new feature of The Guardian, you have to have 4 articles ready to go of like some of the big names. And they did. So I saw that when it first came out, kind of made my takes that I'm kind of like expressing to you now. That hasn't really changed since. I've just read more up about it before before spewing it. And then, but I went back today to see, oh, maybe there's some new stuff. They're doing slow drip reveal, keep people interested, or it takes a long time to go through that much data. And one of the things I saw that had been tagged Pandora Papers is there was something along the lines of like Biden White House points to the closing down like we need to do something about these like tax havens. And I can't help but look at this and think about the fact that my country has reluctantly agreed to the 15% global tax. That like this kind of does seem conveniently in line with like Biden's kind of global agenda of like harmonizing, namely tax rules across at least the OECD.
Well, is it as simple as China's doing better at tax havens now than us? So now I want to. We shouldn't have them anymore.
Yeah,
I want to take the ball and go home.
Yeah, you see the hypersonic missile thing? I don't know. They can beat us in fucking ballistics technology, but they're not fucking beating us at tax havens. Yeah, I don't know. It just comes to mind a little bit that like if we saw there's been a bit of a gap between Paradise and Pandora. Pandora is 2021. Paradise is 2017. So I don't know. Maybe there's like a grand unifying theory of the like the hack and dump leaks being a tool of a Democratic presidency.
Yeah, I don't know.
That like both Paradise and Pandora is a delayed result of Obama's presidency. But like there were so many like dumps like waiting on Trump's desk that he just didn't sign off on. No, yeah, exactly.
He just never got to it, or he directed them to just like do a 16 terabyte dump on all like emails ever sent at Vanity Fair.
And someone at CIA is like, yeah, we'll get right on that. Like, there's probably like a button that will like release that dump somewhere in Langley that they're just like, if Trump follows up on this, just press this button.
Yeah.
If he actually acts to see my work or whatever.
That said, there is good gossip.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Let's play in the mud a little bit here.
Yeah, we can run through. We have a few names that you may have heard before that are mentioned in these documents.
Yes. So do you want to go through the list of Europeans named in the Pandora Papers?
Please.
Yes. I just want to actually go through. There is one that's not mentioned in this article because they have a different, more racist definition of Europe.
Oh, okay.
I want to see if I can get the information on that. Yeah, so let's go through some of these names. First, one I mentioned already, Andrei Babiš.
Come on down. They are all here in the room with us.
Yeah, yeah. What else you got going on? Billionaire, elected president or prime minister of Czech Republic in 2017. Accused of secretly paying 22 million for a villa near Cannes, France in 2009. The money was channeled through various shell companies on the British Virgin Islands. Yeah.
Do you ever like run into each other? Like all the world's like where they're on the British Virgin Islands?
That would actually be such a fun question if you'd like ever been. Because they don't have to go like as themselves.
Yeah.
So I'd just be curious. Because because if that happened, then it would just be a case of just like interviewing villagers in like the British Virgin Islands of like, who, like, have you seen this man? Like, just go through like Forbes top 100 and just be like, have you seen this guy? So this was like a firm in Monaco that released this, or this where this came from.
Classic choice, you know. Not too flashy, not too anything. Monaco, good choice.
Yeah. Babiš has personally brushed off the revelation, suggesting they merely showed he had bought some real estate in 2009. Yep. So
legal, bitch.
Legal. Ruling. Legal. Zero consequences. His party came out on top. I believe they did anyway. I hope I'm not wrong about that. We're going to do
he's still up, right? Or I actually...
We're going to do a Czech Republic episode soon because they had an election. I want to catch up what's going on there. Milo Djukanovic, the prime minister and now president of Montenegro. Basically, my understanding of him is he's like dominated Montenegrin politics for a very, very long time. Just kind of like running rumshot of that fucking country. So what's his... with the help of a Swiss management firm, one under his own name, one under his son. Get a son involved. We love that.
It's honestly the billionaire playbook. It's just if anyone accuses you of anything, just say like, "I love my son."
I just love him. I wanted him to.
You don't even have to love them; they just have to be there.
Yeah,
the loving is
basically.
extra.
Yeah. Well, this is how they show love when you like can't be there for their like. I don't know, when they murder their first maid.
It's a fishing trip.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, I'm just going to have to read this out. The trusts were funded by, quote, career earnings and investment proceeds, but no information about what assets the trusts held are available. Ciarán said that the trust, which was created when he wanted to pursue business activities with his son, never had any business activity. Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon. That he did not invest funds in it and that he did not open any bank accounts. The records show that Ciarán's son also owned 2 British Virgin Islands shell companies. All right. So still out on that one. This is a big one. Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukrainian president, the actor of the... I think what looks like to me like a more comedic version of The West Wing. I think is what the show was.
They were too funny. It raised expectations too much for people going back and binging The West Wing.
Yeah,
that's why they put his name in there.
He's the president of Ukraine after starring in a show about being the president of Ukraine, and he becomes president of Ukraine in the show by being I believe a high school teacher that goes on a rant about what's wrong with Ukraine that one of his students films, and it goes viral. And then so
there you go.
And then I guess he laundered that reputation in much in the same way of Ciarán's Michael Jordan Space Jam conspiracy about...
Wait, what's this?
What is it? Afterwards, there's simply no time.
I do like the appearance and reality versus the appearance is that it's a classic political story across countries that just one person willing to speak the truth rises to the top.
Yeah.
is the textual level, and then the reality level is famous actor gets to rise to the top.
Famous actor with the backing of I believe he has the backing of one particular media oligarch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also worth pointing out that he's he personally is also the anti-oligarch, anti-corruption candidate within Ukraine. These leaks came a week after he announced he was going to do an oligarch registry within Ukraine. That we briefly had a chat we briefly had a discussion in the group chat about this, and very quickly came to the conclusion that this is bullshit and very political and not going to be the universal shot in the arm that Ukrainian politics needs. Anyway, according to the documents, he transferred so-called beneficial owner shares to a close friend and business partner before the 2019 election. The friend, Zehi Shefa, retained his shares even after Zelensky became president, and Shefa joined his administration in Kiev. Zelensky has not responded to the data leak. Fair enough. Keep going. All right. Here's a big one. Tony Blair.
Oh, what's up, playa? How rich is Tony Blair, actually? Do we know? I think he's saving up to become English Batman.
I hate being slow and steady wins the race conservative savings Batman. Just my parents were killed in the back of an opera, but to be honest, I didn't have the capital at age 12 or whatever to get started on this. So what age is Tony Blair? He's 80s or
the Joker is actually just a local in the Cayman Islands who's tired of this bullshit.
Yeah, sure. Oh man, did you know it's not actually quite easy to find the net worth of Tony Blair? Okay. I'm gonna just give me a second here. According to wealthygorilla.com. Whatever.
What's up? You're listening to the Wealthy Gorilla podcast. These are some rich monkeys.
$60 million.
60 million. That's a lot of bananas.
This new branding shift we've got under. Yeah, 68-year-old about to become fucking Batman. Yeah, his education startup. Hang on. Ewan Blair, the oldest of the former PM's offspring.
Son.
Him and his good friend, son, Djukonovic. No, PM's offspring. Jesus, I hate when... Okay, don't call him offspring.
Like, we can't remind him that he's his son. Let's say offspring.
Yeah, just right click. Thesaurus, nailed it. Has done very well for himself. Yesterday it was reported that his education startup, Jesus Christ, Multiverse is what it's called, had been valued at £639 million.
I got a quick bar for you. Do you want to hear it? I love my offspring. His offshore bank going cha-ching.
There you go. We did it. Yeah, it's been dubbed the Blair Rich Project. Cute.
That's cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also saying I'm evil.
Yeah. So this is the thing that, like, I don't believe that Tony Blair's wealth is only 60 million at that point, if his like son is cranking out like net worth of 160 million or whatever. Anyway, so what he did, anyway, he registered a UK property rental company in early 2017. That summer the company bought British Virgin Isle entity that owned an 8.8 million property in London. By acquiring the company and not the property himself, Blair saved over $400,000 in property taxes, which is legal. The property now hosts the headquarters of his wife, Sherry's law firm. Sherry Blair commented that, quote, all the arrangements made were for the express purpose to bring the company and the building back into the UK tax and regulatory regime. And all taxes have been paid ever since, and all accounts openly filed in accordance with the law. Important and underlying in this is we insist that the UK is a separate and totally not in control tax entity of the British Virgin Islands.
Yep.
Just keep that going.
There you have it.
Yeah. All right. So this is this is a Corner Späti classic character, Wupke Hoekstra.
Or as I like to say it, Wapka, no one who hates Italians that much should be named that Hofstra.
Dude, throwing stones in glass houses. Yeah, sure, you're insulting some guy called Joey Pizza, but come on. Wupke Hoekstra. Dutch finance minister who's a bitch, like genuinely like a monster who stopped like Europe from handling the Corona crisis in any way responsibly.
The Mozart to Lindner's current Amadeus. He wishes he could flex on that level.
Yeah, Lindner is running because Wupke Hoekstra walked, so Lindner couldn't run. So yeah, he acquired shares in the British Virgin Islands again, company named Candice Management in 2009, and then more shares in 2013. And in 2014, while serving as Dutch senator. Other shareholders of Candice Management include leading executives of the ABN AMRO Bank, a major Dutch financial institution. Cool. Records show that Hoekstra held 627 shares in Candice Management of May 2017 and claimed to have sold them before the tax office as finance minister in October 2017. All right. Bitch. Oh, man, do you hear that? It's the sound of a car exploding. John Daly, Malta's former European commissioner in 2012, named as owning a company in the British Virgin Islands, and he didn't disclose when he was national MP. He says the company was inactive and he resigned upon learning that he was being given a cabinet job in 2008. Daly's daughters became company's directors a few months later. Okay, so cool. So not a son, but...
Yeah, well, progressive.
Yeah, offspring.
Yeah.
Women just want to have fun in the British Virgin Islands. Dominique Strauss-Kahn, former managing director of the International Monetary Fund.
Hell yes.
And ex-French finance minister, used a Morocco-based company. Ooh. Do you feel like that was a typo? He was looking for something in Monaco?
I think he has a little taste. He has a little flair for the...
Yeah.
I mean, we know a lot about the personal life of Dominique Strauss-Kahn.
He's just like, I do love tagine. Just like in front of his study.
He's actually taken all of his money out of Morocco and invested it in an NFT of a monkey in a French maid costume.
You do not understand? I'm going back to Wall Street bets. They understand me there.
He should join Reddit or something and post on there.
Yeah.
It's like kind of how like everyone on Irony Twitter loved retweeting Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Like the Wall Street bets, I think they'd get a kick out of Dominique Strauss-Kahn.
Yeah, that's the task for the listeners at home. Find Dominique Strauss-Kahn's alt on Reddit. Oh god. Anyway, Morocco-based company to take in millions of dollars in consulting fees, many of which were tax-free. Clients include the oil company Rosneft and the Chinese aviation conglomerate HNA Group. In 2018, Strauss-Kahn created another consulting firm in the United Arab Emirates after the tax exemptions for his Moroccan company expired. Cool. Interestingly, two big names of these leaks is not in this article.
This is a political article, by the way.
Yeah, so good job, Politico. I pray and hope for all the young, attractive women who work there.
Yikes.
Yeah. So one of the big ones is the current president of Cyprus. Oh my God, I wish Nick was here. Nikos Anastasiades. So reason he's mentioned is that, kind of widely known, Cyprus is a bit of a tax haven. It's the popular tax haven for Russians, actually. So going into every country gets one, Cyprus has kind of been relegated to Russia. Yeah, the reason it's a big deal, though, is that he's kind of named as knowing and facilitating this in his personal capacity as president, which is a bit of a no-no. So Panamanian offshore company broker Alcogal complained that the Cypriot law firm Nikos, oh my God, his name again, and partners had claimed to it that...
Nice, nailed that one, Ciarán.
I know, right? Oh my God, okay, sorry. Yeah, so basically, however, in the report filed to financial regulators, British Virgin Island, blah, 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 he was basically working for a oligarch and movie producer in Russia known as Leonid Lebedev. Here he is, I believe, drunk, holding an award. Yeah, he became president of Cyprus in 2013. He said that while he owned shares in the law firm until his election, he had no active role in his affairs, becoming leader of the opposition in 1997. So yeah, there's he basically kind of facilitated the tax dodging of this guy while his capacity as a lawyer, and also I think helped him with like the golden passport system that Cyprus runs, where you can just pay to become a Cypriot citizen and therefore a citizen of the EU, which again, a lot of Russians use. Because, while you're there, why not?
When in Cyprus, become a citizen of Cyprus.
Do as the Cypriots do, which is have a Cypriot passport. They love doing that. Yeah. The next big one, and this largely relates to our more, let's call it generous, inclusive definition of Europe, is the ruler of Azerbaijan, the Aliyev family. They've traded in nearly £400 million of UK property, all through a shell company, and all kind of like tax-free for that purpose. So, yeah, if you live in London, your landlord is one step removed from being the effective the dictator of Azerbaijan.
And you know what? I think that's pretty cool.
Oh god, yeah. The whole family is supposedly involved. His daughters as well. We're also benefiting from this. So
yeah, okay, you all love each other. Okay, we get it.
Yeah. Your family's happy and well adjusted. Boo. So yeah, that's some of the people involved. I think it's worth pointing out that as we talked about, like the kind of like allies thing that happens there of like, we collateral damage, as we were mentioning earlier. We're pointing out that a lot of those are legal. No one has suffered consequences.
Yeah.
There's all excuses out of
perspective is necessary.
Yeah. So like, but no more the point of like, okay, this is the collateral damage. If this is an op, this is the collateral damage we're going to put you under. Oh, while you were a lawyer in Cyprus before you became president, you were doing a thing that basically every lawyer in Cyprus was doing. Oh no. Like it's a lot of stuff that can be weaseled out of, or or even in the case of Zelensky, ignored.
I wonder if like our banks, can they crack down on this? Like, does it hurt business? I think probably not, right? I mean,
where else are you gonna go? I mean, like
so.
that'd be the perspective of banks, right? Like, where the fuck else are you gonna go?
Or like, would they crack down on their employees leaking? But yeah, I guess they're like, no, we can do what we want.
Yeah, I like there's
or whoever is leaking.
As far as my understanding of both Panama and Paradise, there were no consequences. People who leaked it were never found. Some rhetoric and stuff, but no one mentioned suffered any real big consequences, except for like some electoral embarrassments. I think one of the big ones from Panama, you might remember from the time, because it was caught in camera because it got revealed mid-interview, was the president of Iceland was involved in the Panama Papers, and he was like mid-interview, and they started asking about this, and he just like walks out. And as far as I understand,
smart.
Yeah. He's a big goofball, if I remember correctly. But like centre-right party of Iceland, they've suffered some electoral defeats because of that. But like, he's not in jail. He's not even completely gone from political life. It's just a case of like I think they're in opposition. That's it. And very possible that they could come back. Nothing to say that they're like destroyed. Like,
yeah.
But the SPD looked worse than they did electorally, like last summer.
Yeah. And the SPD can't even blame it on any leaks, huh?
No, exactly. But yeah, any final wrapping up thoughts here?
I learned a lot, actually. Like I said, I've never read these, and so I feel like I got some context.
Yeah.
I can't lie. I kind of like the gossip. It's kind of fun.
Gossip is fun. Don't get
Who's
me wrong.
moving where? Who owns what?
Yeah, there's no. It's for sure. It's useful to know the details, but you should have known this was. You need to make this assumption of basically everyone in government running a large company. Anyone rich, famous, powerful, they're doing this because, like I said earlier, there's no consequences. If you were in that position, basically, it'd be foolish not to. You could save so much money. Why would you not do it? And there's no consequences. So just assume everyone's doing this. If not, they're an idiot.
If not, they're not going to make it.
They're not. Yeah, probably not. Like the kind of rich people who are not doing this are probably like famous athletes. Like the most tragic example.
Yeah, really.
Of rich
The
people.
ones getting taken advantage of.
The one that get taken advantage of, chewed up and spit out by the age of their 30 or whatever. Yeah.
So
have to make
what
a movie with Warner Brothers to launder their personalities.
I should make an island where only athletes can use as a tax saving.
I should make NBA Liechtenstein.
I mean, honestly, they always go to like Cabo and whatever on the off season anyway, and so like they should just. We're going to storm City Hall and take it over. It's going to be a tax haven. We're going to take it away from Mexico.
Oh my God. And with that was a pretty good episode, I think. I'm happy with that discussion. I genuinely thought this topic would have been bonus episode worthy, but I'm happy to make this a main public episode. This is coming out Monday the 25th. If you are listening to it in Berlin and it is the morning or afternoon of Monday the 25th, we are doing a live show this evening, 10 p.m. in Donau 115. Donaustrasse 105 in Neukölln.
Walk, don't run to Donau 115 because you're probably listening to it very shortly before we begin. Wait, did I say backwards?
You said it backwards. Run, don't walk.
Walk,
don't
you
run.
might catch the second half.
Yeah. Walk, don't run. Take it easy. You deserve it. You've had a long day.
We're relaxing.
You didn't get around to listen to the podcast until the late afternoon. I'm assuming something's been going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing a live show with comedians Josie Parkinson, Ian, and Matthew. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And yeah, it should be good fun. It's €4 entry. And if you're a Patreon supporter, you can message us on Patreon and we might be able to get you in for free. Although it might be too late at this point. I'm so sorry. But until next week or possibly tonight, see ya.
Peace.